Wonderful to be here today.
Yeah.
Pilar.
Hey, Andrea.
Hello.
Hey, good to see you both. We are really excited that Pilar is joining us today. Pilar Martin is the VP of Customer Success at bexio, has been there for about 6 years, growing the team almost from the ground up through many different inflection points. We have a lot we're really interested to dive in today with you. But curious to set the stage before we dive into these questions. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role, kind of what it is that your team is owning and how you're situated within?
Yeah. Sure. So I came in at the point where it was like, okay, let's look into churn. Why are customers leaving? And what are we going to do about it? So that's how we started, very much focus on retention, churn, and the lagging indicators. And then step by step, we started moving into more leading indicators. So also expansion and growth, usage, activation, product adoption, and how everything comes together, and kind of building that across the customer journey towards like sustainable growth.
Super interesting. Thank you for that. And your team right now, so the majority of Bexio's clients, I think are SMB, is that right?
Yes,
What are
we have
yeah.
two target groups. We have the SMEs and then the fiduciaries, accountants. My teams, they are focused on the SME part. That's kind of like the volume business, lots of customers to take care of and engage every day.
Yeah. And one thing that was really interesting as we were prepping for this and talking through it is that in spite of it being a volume business, it's still a very high touch model. Is
Mhm.
that right? Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about how you make that work?
So yeah, that's correct. Like if anyone will look at our company and the market where we are in, they will be like, okay, then it's full automation, really low touch, and that's what it works. The thing is, like, our ambitions are much higher than that. Our retention, how it should look like, it's much higher than that model can offer to us. So the way that we have built it, it was looking at what works for us. So from the typical pyramid of customer success, what actually we can take that works and we can still make profitable. So we have a mix of course, automation, right? But also high touch with our customers. Basically, so we have 4 pillars. The number one is data. So that's the most important part. You need to know which features drive adoption, which actions lead to higher retention and engagement. How do customers interact with your product? What actually a positive experience look like? So data is the most important. Otherwise, it's not possible to build it. Then it's understand your customers, what type of customers, what their needs, their value, their goals are. We have tons of sectors. Segmentation to the nitty-gritty is not possible. We will also
Mhm.
not have the impact. So there has to be high-level segmentation, but still segmentation and prioritization. That's for sure. And then also building processes and tools. So we use Salesforce for everything. Every customer-facing team from trial to end customer is in Salesforce. So building processes for the team, really operationalize processes
Mhm.
where the team knows where they can have impact and where it's not worth it. Maybe the customer also doesn't need it. Allows us to build this mix between automation, but also pretty decent high touch. I mean, our teams have around 50 to 60 customer contacts a day. So it's pretty decent, but it doesn't work and it will not be profitable without the other pillars of understanding your customers and having the data available and built in a way that makes sense.
And maybe going back to bexio, the product, just to understand, like, what are the characteristics of, because every product has a slightly different impact on how you do success,
Mm-hmm.
right? So some are longer onboarding, shorter onboarding, a lot of handholding. So how does bexio's product suite, I guess, because there is not
Mm-hmm.
just one product, what
Yes.
are the characteristics from a customer success perspective?
So I would say overall we have a easy product, but accounting is never easy.
Yeah.
So there's a mix there between being a simple product for small businesses, entrepreneurs, with mixing finances, reporting, accounting, invoicing, and so on, which is not a topic that is natural for people. it tends to be a little bit scary as well, where you also need to trust on the people that you're putting your sensitive data with and ensure that it will work out. But overall, I would say we are on a easy to use product.
Mhm.
Easy to use doesn't mean that everything that you use has the same value. So you have some functionalities that are highly used but have no stickiness whatsoever, will not drive retention, and that's also easy to switch. It doesn't drive engagement. While we have other functionality that we really want customers to use, first of all, because it rounds up the experience, right? It actually is where you see the value of what you're paying for. So we want them to use it because it will simplify user time and so on and so forth. And they are built in that way, but also because we know if you use it, if you add this module that is included in your subscription anyway, your retention will be higher. You will have a much better experience. You would recommend it. You will invite your accountant to help you to use it. So, it builds up, and that is where customer success comes into place. Using the basics, it's okay. We will not need it, but we want them to use much more than the basic of what they originally started using it for. Does
And
that make you?
yeah, that makes complete sense. And my question to you is how is the organization set up so that knowledge is diffused back to customer success? Because obviously that level of understanding of product performance, there's a lot to do with data and understanding the product behavior and looking at data in aggregate. How is customer success intersecting with various other teams at bexio? So you see, everyone's lives in Salesforce, the sales to CS connection easier. But I'm curious about the rest, which is, to be that data driven, how does CS interact with all their data needs effectively?
Customer success is placed organizational wise within the core organization. That means that every customer facing team is under one umbrella, which I find quite helpful already. This, we can share information from the very beginning when a trial is created and those first interactions with the sales teams to the rest of the team's support and so on and so forth. Additionally, we also have in-house a data team, which makes things very, very useful for us, builds the needed data pipelines that we want into Salesforce, analysis and so on that helps us grow and increase all the insights that we have. And then we also have a Salesforce team in-house, and that is also sitting in the core organization. So the Salesforce, the CRM, also, it's very close to the teams that actually deal with customers and engage with customers, and everything kind of flows in that way from that point of view. Luckily, we also have a product team that is interested in the perspective of those teams, also customer success, also support directly in order to get the feedback from the customers, to shape the roadmap, to solve the most pressing issues and so on. So overall, we are a flat organization, but the fact of having everyone customer facing under the same umbrella and the Salesforce team as well helps us a lot building processes that make sense for teams, but also for customers, I would say.
Thanks.
It's really interesting. And I'm super curious beyond just the data perspective of that team interaction. And specifically, I see you are deputy CRO. How did the teams work together from a revenue perspective? How do you split up those revenue responsibilities and what does that collaboration look like?
Yeah. So upsell, cross-sell, all revenues from existing customers are within customer success. So from retention, churn, and revenue protection, which I believe is underrated in many areas, in many companies or organizations, revenue protection actually leads to a bigger customer base, more opportunities for the future, plus revenue growth. We are also responsible for that, generating opportunities, moving customers to higher packages because they need additional functionality, their businesses are growing. But also we try to make everyone in the crew organization aware of spotting opportunities. So for example, if a customer is in support and within that conversation, the support agent already spots, okay, this person actually is not satisfied with what they have right now. They actually would benefit from this functionality. They need to pass on also that lead to customer success. So we do trainings, we do coachings. Every team should also be able to spot how a customer needs from the point of view of growing, of course, additional packages, but we also have free offerings for education and training. It's kind of working and having the same mindset across the teams where they also spot opportunities for further engagement for the customer. But let's say the KPI, the ones that report and have to generate, sits with customer success from, MR, churn, upsell, expansion, everything is within customer success.
And you mentioned the importance of enablement across the team. Like, I'm really curious. It all sounds very simple the way you say it right now. Yes, everyone's aligned, right? Everyone is looking for opportunities. But I think every customer success leader right now is struggling with, how do we strike that right balance? How do we really enable the team and also motivate the team?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm curious a little bit about how you structure incentives, how you structure KPIs, and also what are some of the trade-offs? Are there trade-offs you've had to make? Are there hard learnings? Are there things you tried and didn't work and had to shift to get to where you are today?
That's funny because it's very painful. So what I said maybe sounded very easy, but it is not easy at all. Also striking the balance of how much of everything everyone needs to know. That's also important. Not everyone needs the same level of product knowledge, as example, right? It's very different from a product specialist, someone who is enabling, educating the customer one-to-one to a different role in the company. So building education, let's say internal education framework, it's something that we have tried, to be honest, for years. We have it still quite scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still quite difficult to build. So we do it also in a way where team leads also have the responsibility to make sure that all the knowledge is being transferred to the team. So we really enable the leadership part of bexio, the leadership team. We put a lot of effort on them, on developing them to make sure that they can translate everything that is needed into the teams, make sure the teams are getting the information that they need to do their job, to improve their job, to give a better service to our customers. But I would say we have not found the right setup that works for everyone. We still have gaps here and there. And I would say our biggest tension situation, it always comes regarding customer handover. That I would say is one of the pain points that we still have. And the problem of that is the one that feels it is the customer, right? At the end, no matter how annoying it is, it's 10 times or 100 times more annoying for the customer because they don't care if you're support, if you're sales, if you're customer success. They are using your software. They need to get the help, the value that they need. So customer handover, it's definitely a pain. It happens because sometimes customers have multiple touch points with multiple departments. It was not smooth. Documentation was not entered in the CRM. And then it's a snowball, right? And it ends up being a terrible experience, major escalation, and then a learning to get back. So I would say customer handover for us is like this continuous process that it will never finish. No matter, it will never finish. There are always ways to do it better. We have monthly meetings within different customer-facing teams, different people within the teams responsible for that, to make sure that the customer handover, how they go from one department to another, it's continuously being improved. It's our daily business, I would say. It's part of the daily business.
What are some breakthroughs you've had in that? If this has been such a focus, and especially, again, this high touch but scaled model, I imagine creates a whole set of expectations and challenges. What are some things that you've tried that have really worked or that have shifted or made that better?
I would say getting people together and talking, discussing, feeling the pain of the other person, feeling the stress or the worry of your colleague, putting a customer in the middle of the room and asking the customer, okay, tell us what happens. What did you see? Kind of hearing from your team members, but also from the customers, why that doesn't work, why it makes no sense, and being consistent on that. So it's not one meeting, it's not, a quarterly meeting that you get together and prepare 1 hour before, but it's recurrently talking about sharing the pain, making also customer complaints visible within the organization. We can feel like people need to feel kind of the pain. Otherwise, we are a little bit absorbed within our tasks, our roles, KPIs, what we do, and so on. So if you don't exchange systematically, if the exchange is not operationalized and people can set expectations for each other on how improve that, I would say that's the key of that. You can make as many processes, you can make as much automation, record calls, whatever you want. But if the people willingness, they don't understand the why, they cannot see what other people's problems are or issues, it will never get you to the goal that you want.
I love
Does
that we're so
this
focused in this age on automation and on what can we replace and on AI that I think it's critical, right? What you're underscoring is that empathy, you can't
Mhm.
replace human empathy and
I,
understanding of the why and just communication.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it definitely AI automation gives those teams like many more capabilities to do their job better, clearly. But it doesn't replace the willingness and the empathy of caring for the customer and actually making a judgment on the situation to improve, for sure.
And does this impact the way you structure the CS team? We've seen ways where you structure the CS team based on the customer journey post-sales. You have the onboarding team, and then you have the CS, like day-to-day CS, and then you go to renewal, and that's a slightly different shift. Is that the way you approach it? Or in that case, that's just one, it's customer driven. As you handle the customer from A to Z, and then you are the point of contact for the rest of the team in support in product. Does this notion of understanding the pain across multiple teams impact the way you structure the CS team? Or?
We've gone through multiple structures.
Yeah.
We did have, so we started with one person in charge of onboarding, one person was product engagement, one person was win back, and so on and so forth. So it was very functional based. Then we move into no, everyone does everything. So we also divide the customer base on success managers, let's say. And of course, with this volume business, you had like thousands within your portfolio, but still you had to do some certain tasks, trigger certain tasks, do some onboarding, and basically everything, product engagement. If they were not using it, you will do outreach. The same if they wanted to do win backs or cancel their subscription or something went wrong in their customer journey, to act as well. Then we started to get, let's say, more mature. We also invested in like churn prediction, health score, expansion prediction, and so on and so forth. One person couldn't do that it was not realistic as well. Some tasks would take way too long. So then we divided in, let's say, 2 teams, but within the same umbrella, under me, where one is more focused on onboarding, upselling, cross-selling, education, so on and so forth. Another one takes a little bit more the complaint part, cracks in the customer journey, kind of to fix it, the win-back side of it, and kind of like depending on the risk level of the customer, we divided that because also, for example, with the churn prediction, they had additional tasks. Then it was not reactive. Oh, you wanted to cancel. Let me talk to you what went wrong and can we fix it? It was like, okay, this customer is not as engaged as it should. You should actually think about it. What are you going to do with this customer? How early you want to, like much more proactive. That requires a lot more time, a lot more focus, and so on and so forth. And that's where we are now today. That's a big evolution over years.
Okay. And you mentioned all the tooling in place for that. Is that something you developed internally? You bought outside, or how do you Because it's always, I think, the same, like the allocation of resources to CS team
Mm-hmm.
is an interesting question, whether they should live in the CRM, they have their own system, how much you build in-house because it's unique to your
Mm-hmm.
product. I'm just curious on how you are approaching tooling for CS team in general.
Their main working tool is Salesforce, 100%.
Okay.
We are in the lucky position that we have a Salesforce team in-house.
Okay.
Very smart team that can build basically anything and everything. And that simplifies our work so much. We don't need to be looking at additional tools. We also don't need, due to also the volume business, we don't need the fanciest customer success tool either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the lucky position of having an in-house team that understand the customer, understand the teams working with customers, and have the know-how, we're able to build quite a lot for ourselves, which works pretty well. Additionally, then we also have the other processes that the teams have. So all the processes for the support teams, all the processes for the direct sales teams. So we have everything in one place, where we can other teams can benefit as well from different processes that we have. But our processes are also enriched with all the data, all the behavior, and all the touch points that customers had with other teams. So for us, works actually quite well just with Salesforce. Of course, on top of that, we have our data team that whenever we need additional insights, they are able to provide it to Salesforce whenever we need it.
Interesting. It's complicated, right? The building of the tooling and having, and that mix of having tools that are very specialized for every single use case versus being able to have everything in one place, particularly in something as complex as a user journey, which spans multiple teams and multiple workflows.
But before building that, the very beginning was about data analytics, and before building any process or anything. And I would say some of the most valuable piece of data that I have ever used, they were built, we built it when I started in bexio, was the retention cohort analysis. So you really just, if you had that, it gives you so much already about from this cohort of customers, what happens in month 1, 2, 3, 4. You start actually seeing when retention is going down. And then out of that, you can start seeing, where do I want to focus? Where do I want to focus that has actually an impact, a significant impact? And out of that is easier to start building. Where do you want to put people on and put it in a way that you can actually measure it? Because the cohort of the customers will still behave. And if you change something, you will see it in that retention rates and everything. So I would say having that from the very beginning made it also easier to say, okay, where do we want to place people? Where do we want to, or there's an issue in the customer journey that we actually want to proactively solve that makes sense for the customer, that had actually an impact, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's so important to make those decisions in a data-based, data-focused, data-backed way. Yeah, a lot of times customer success teams bring me in, for example, as an advisor, a consultant, and say, hey, we just want to increase retention. And there's a lot of things that you could theoretically think would be great to have, right? We can always make the customer journey better. But if you don't know where things are breaking, and if you don't know where you're losing the customers, you can create a lot of fantastic user experience that doesn't impact the customer outcome at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, churn doesn't happen at renewal.
Right.
Retention doesn't happen at renewal. It's an everyday thing. It's all the interactions from your product, your service, your image, your help that you offer, all that every single day. That's retention and even expansion. It's that it happens at renewal. It's just focusing on the lagging indicators, just being reactive, which I understand sometimes, you miss things, you miss signals, and it still happens. But the idea is to work and build the skills to be proactive in order to actually not get the lagging indicator, not receive and see it, but actually you already know what's going to happen because you are tackling the issue much early on. So if you were able to be successful, you already know that number is going to be better. that everything is going to work out much, much better. That's for sure.
And I guess that's particularly important for software like bexio, where the likelihood of churning mid-year is probably lower because the transition is so hard outside of the system. But like you still build your decision to churn at the year end during the year, right? So you get this there is, extrapolating here, there's signals of like actual churn can be delayed a lot versus the time the signals of the willingness to churn happen, because they will do it on a next year cycle or a next accounting year cycle, because obviously that's the easiest way to transition outside of a system like bexio. Is that something you see?
Yes and no.
Okay. Interesting.
Like everything, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we are an accounting software, but we serve micro and small businesses, right? It's not the same a medium or enterprise that the decision making was a lot longer, lots of testing and so on and so forth. So that already gives you a lower engagement that you could expect with enterprise software, say. Faster decisions, and accounting is also not your main priority when you're an entrepreneur. You want to win customer, make sure that the customers are happy with you, that they are paying your invoices, that you can hire your next employee. It's a lot of financial, mental, and personal investment that they are doing. Accounting and accounting software is not like, yay, it's, can't wait for that day. So the engagement is not as high as you can imagine because of the target group. That's why you need to make sure that you have the education, the trainings, the guides, the tutorial, the support, but also the teams that can actually at the right point guide you through what you need in order to start using that. Another challenge that we have with that target group is the closure of business. It's highly impacted by business closure, right, in that segment. So if we already say 50% of our customers, they leave because they close down the business, you have 50% of to actually be very good at it. Like you really train them, really engage them, really show them what they are here for, what the value is, how it can impact your business. Because that this target group comes with its challenges as well.
There's a lot of built-in churn.
That's for sure. Yeah, 100%.
So you've described really well thought out process, really well thought out tooling. And you've obviously been working at this for many, many years. How has AI shifted some of what you're doing? And also, I keep hearing how important the human touch points are. How do you maintain and what do you see the role of the humans in the team, right? How do you maintain that human contact, and how does AI support the flow?
Originally, we looked some years ago, it was more predictive, right? So using models and to tell us who is at risk, who needs something, and now we are into execution. And that's where I see the difference. Now it can help you to do a much better execution of what you have built and give you a much faster go-to-market from new processes, new solutions, new everything, like tutorials and helps and tips. Everything that you can need, the go-to-market is much faster. So I see it as enhanced capabilities of the teams, enhanced capabilities for the customers. We can also build features a lot faster, right? And go to market a lot faster. But I go back to the judgment, human judgment of each situation. You have the tools, you have the automation, you have information, you have data, but at the end of the day, the success is about the interpretation of that, understanding where the value for that customer is, or for that group of customers really rely on being able to focus on that value. I don't think that the AI will replace everything if you don't have that human judgment to say, okay, this is why our product is valuable. This is the problem that it's solving. This is why important for these customers, and what we're offering more, targeting more, showing you more out of that. So I see it like just enhancing everything, improving everything that we do, but not replacing it. That's at least my take on it.
That human judgment. You can't replace the human judgment, but you can maybe improve the inputs into that human judgment.
100%, yes. I think it's simplifying some actions that maybe didn't have that much value before. You spent hours and hours and hours on data analysis, and now it's much easier to get a set of data. Okay, and now I can interpret it, So it makes you faster. I think it makes you more efficient, simplifies your life. That I love. I mean, I used, Claude, like it's all the time. Like it has made my life so much easier on so many aspects. But definitely, I don't feel like it replaced the judgment on situations, on creating value, and the trust building that employees and the teams offer to our customers.
And how do you judge success in customer success? So what is your North Star at bexio for CS? How do you judge? Like we're doing well here with all these tools and all these processes and everything. What is the North Star for you?
Is net revenue retention. I mean, it's how you get to that makes you proud of what you've built. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you sustainably growing? Is churn good? Customers taking, using the product, your NPS, and the revenue that you're generating, so you can actually feed it back into building more of the product, investing on new services, new functionality, and so on. So at the end of the day, is the net revenue retention. But the teams themselves, they don't necessarily get those as KPIs. So they get KPIs that are more leading. Percentage of customers that increase the usage during the onboarding, right? So activation of the features, enablement, and so on and so forth. The growth of a healthy package distribution, how many customers are actually moving in a healthy way to higher packages, discovering new functionality, and so on. The teams get leading indicators and leading KPIs, while at the end of the day, you want the lagging one, the final one, to tell you, yes, you're doing a good job for your business.
This is fantastic. We're running up on time. Maybe a popcorn style question. What are 3 recommendations you have for customer success leaders owning SME customers?
Of many recommendations. I have way too many recommendations. My personal one, and I struggle with, perfection is costly. So focus on progress. Perfection will not take you anywhere. Just focus on progress rather than perfection. Don't build the perfect process, perfect team, just progress. Are you going better than before? Focus on proactivity. Build teams that are proactive, think proactive, look for opportunities. They have the drive. So go total change management from reactive to proactive. And I do believe that customer success has a lot more strength and a lot of more importance if it's combined with revenue. So a good, healthy balance between retention and revenue generation will take you much longer, will have much bigger impact, and make you much more successful.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Pilar. Thanks a lot.